Good evening and welcome to live organic news on Awake Radio this Tuesday, November. It's actually the date is 11/12/13, which somebody posted earlier today. So right last week we were not live. I had a bit of a kind of a family thing going on. I've been writing a lot in my blog. It's very interesting. I blog so much about our connection to nature, taking the time to slow down, be present, and connect within and listen to the body. Because we really can't afford to, take nature for granted, take our health for granted, and it's amazing, the mind-body connection that I'm always talking about. And we think, if we just sort of resist or dismiss, deny things enough, that, we're going to be able to control things. And then we find out that, we really can. Nature really is in charge, and something that, we just never think can happen, happens. And when we don't get things looked at and taken care of, of course, money is always the issue, or health insurance and things like that. So as of right now, last Monday, well, actually it was last weekend, my brother had collapsed. He had a run-in with a deer, at the end of, September, actually, I think it was. We don't think that it's much, I had some headaches, for, stiff neck for a while, and, we don't really imagine that it's going to accumulate, to something so serious. And then, unfortunately, it did. He ended up collapsing last weekend, couldn't get up. He had to have surgery on C2. They fused C2 to C1 and 3. And, he has a lot of recovery ahead. It was pretty shocking. It's pretty surreal to, know someone and know how normally functional, it is to be, and then to just really see how, just like that, it can be taken away, and you're as helpless as an infant baby. You need people to do everything for you: bathe you, feed you, brush your teeth, stand you up. It's incredible. And I want to kind of get a little bit into that a little bit more towards maybe the last half an hour of the show. Debra Sweet is going to join us I think in a minute, and give us a bit of an update. She won't be able to stay on too long, maybe like 15, 20 minutes. And then at 6:30, a woman I met, Elena Sassower, who's I was reading a bit up on her in the Village Voice. She's, of course, Hillary Clinton and a bunch of people in Congress, they find her irritating, because she stands up to them, and she is constantly calling Hillary Clinton's office. They're actually like banning her from calling there. She started an organization called the Center for Judicial Accountability. And the website is called www.judgewatch. I believe it's .org. And so, we'll be getting Debra Sweet on the phone very shortly. As soon as Paula has her, then we'll bring her on. She's going to give a bit of an update. I've been out of the loop since last Monday. I drove out here 9 hours last Monday. I can't help but notice. Yeah, it's a good 9-hour drive out here in, my brother's in Ohio in a hospital. And I can't help but notice the amount of deer and roadkill that there is. I mean, me, I don't know about anybody else, but I'm like gasping and covering my eyes like every 2 seconds every time I see it. And I drove out here like tense like the whole time because I definitely do not, I mean, for myself and of course for the animal. And I mean, it's kind of a metaphor that we literally are having a head-on collision with nature. And my brother had a head-on collision with nature. Like, I mean, we cannot, but hitting a deer himself. And I mean, now he's has months and months of physical therapy and rehab in front of him. So we definitely do not want to just keep ignoring the signs and symptoms that we're getting from nature. We have to definitely learn to work with it. I talk a lot about the mind-body connection. We can't just keep, ignore the obvious signs and signals that are coming to us. Recently, the tsunami that they had in the Philippines. I mean, where these incredible storms are coming from, is anybody's guess. I mean, a lot of people. I mean, I believe in climate change. It makes perfect sense to me. Of course, the Earth is just a larger body. I mean, we affect our own bodies if we're living in it and we don't take care of it. How is it possible that all of us living on the Earth, that we are not going to affect this large body that we're living on? I mean, of course we're going to. So Paula is in the process of of trying to get Debra sweet, as you can hear her beeping. It's not a problem, Paula. I mean, if we are trying to get Debra Sweet of World Can't Wait, just to get a bit of an update. Hello. Okay, we have Debra Sweet, so we don't want to waste any time now. We want to just get right to it. What's been going on, Deb?
Well, what I've been writing about this week is the tension between the U.S. and its government in Afghanistan, because, of course, the Karzai government wouldn't exist without U.S. money and military backing. There's tension because the U.S. is trying to negotiate withdrawal terms from the country that include immunity for U.S. military. In other words, immunity to keep on doing all they've been doing, the night raids, the attacks on wedding parties, the indefinite detention. And Karzai at this point is saying, no, you can't leave a smaller force here, and we're not going to give them, because we're not going to give them immunity. So this is a pretty big deal. The U.S. does not want to leave ground troops, fighting troops there. They've set up 11 bases in Afghanistan. They are going to leave private contractors and special operations, but it's very tense right now over whether they will be able to keep the number of troops they want to keep, because they had an agreement to keep troops there until 2024.
And what's the point of keeping the troops there? I mean,
the point is the U.S. does not want to give up control over that strategic part of the region. Syria, it borders on Syria, Iraq and Iran, and it's just a part of the world that the U.S. has decided it must control and not allow anyone else to control it. So that's the point of keeping the troops.
So this is
it has nothing to do with helping the people. That's
exactly. Like, yeah, we've when we went to hear Malalai Joya speak when she was around a couple of weeks ago, she spoke twice and was pretty much establishing that fact. And so, said the real reason why we're over there is for, she mentioned opium. I'm not sure if she mentioned oil. I know she mentioned opium.
Yeah,
And
well, it's a huge, the Taliban had stopped the opium production and the trade in it, and now when the U.S. is back in charge, the opium trade is huge. And Malala was saying that the most tragic part of it is how many women and children now are addicted to
right,
opium.
right. Yeah, this is just, yeah, I mean, it's just, I've been in Ohio for over a week now, and I mean, because I pretty much like I try my best to stay in the loop and stay up on things and get in touch with alternative news. I mean, I make it, uh, I would say, quite a bit of a full time job, and not a lot of people are really aware of it, and that's I feel like that has so much to do with it is getting people aware of I mean, we just had Veterans Day yesterday, right? I mean, what right, it was, yeah, yesterday was Veterans Day. What was going on back in New York and maybe in other places for Veterans Day? And I mean, the attitude is what, like, the troops are over there fighting for our freedom and fighting the terrorists.
Hmm. Well, the troops have been used and abused for decades in the service of U.S. imperialist war. And anybody with a conscience or anybody that's awake at all looks at that and says that's just further use of the veterans. If the U.S. cared about the military that it's sent into combat and under these conditions, of course, they would not leave them in the situation they're in, which is still continuing 18 suicides a day from people that have returned from Afghanistan and Iraq. It's completely outrageous. And not only does the government not care, but they still try to use what those troops went through as a way to reinforce and justify the U.S. sending them there in the first place to be sacrificed
Right.
at the altar of empire, really.
Yeah, that's exactly, and the people that they're killing also are being sacrificed.
Hmm. Yeah, well, that's the main thing.
Right.
The honoring the U.S. veterans has nothing to do and is in contradiction, really, to even acknowledging all the people that the U.S. has killed in the Middle East. Someone mentioned again yesterday something I think is really true, that the U.S. has created 9/11s all across the Middle East,
Right.
every week, really.
Right. I wanted to mention also, like, this weekend coming up is a drone summit in Washington, D.C., right?
Yeah, it's called Drones Around the World, Proliferation and Resistance. It's put on by Code Pink. We expect about more than 300 people to be there, and it's going to include people from Yemen whose families were attacked by U.S. drones and killed, lawyers, journalists, and other people who know what they're talking about, as
And
well as a lot of us activists.
right. This is an outdoor event, like quite like the NSA event that we had. Is that right?
No, this is indoor.
Oh, it
Indoors at
is.
Georgetown Law.
Oh,
Yeah,
awesome.
it's a 2-day conference. That's Georgetown Law School.
Yes, I do have my ticket. I did get a ticket to go to it. And
Great.
will you be driving the drone down?
Possible. There's
So
a
yeah.
group from South Carolina that wants to pick up a drone, so it's possible we may drive a drone down.
All right. If you need help, I'll be help. I could help you drive the drone down. Um,
Yeah, that was a unique experience in life, wasn't it?
yeah. So
Here,
again, like, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
well, here's a program that costs billions of dollars a year because the U.S. is increasingly moving away from manned fighter aircraft and moving to unmanned drone aircraft.
Right.
So they're spending billions of dollars on it, and we are raising thousands of dollars for our own drone program that is to put model drones on the streets as part of political protest against the way the U.S. is fighting wars increasingly around the world. So people should support that drone war, but not the other drone war, not the one that the U.S. is waging around the world.
Right. And so you said Code Pink is putting on this drone summit, right?
Yeah.
So people can find it by going to, is it
codepink.org.
.org or
Yes.
Drone Summit DC. I'm sure you can probably find.
You can also find it information at worldcan'twait.net.
Right.
And we will be there. I'll be live tweeting D-Suite WCW for World Can't Wait.
Okay, WCW on Twitter.
Yeah, World Can't Wait on Twitter, and I'm D-Suite for my first initial and last name, WCW on Twitter.
And are there any updates in, I guess, like in the Bradley Manning, Chelsea Manning? Anything
not that much, except the main update in the last couple of weeks is that people can now write directly to Chelsea, and you can visit her. You can try to set up a visit. You have to get approved by the government, but if you want to visit her, write to her, and she's, we'll try to get people on the schedule. She can only have a certain number of people at a time.
Right.
And you have to go to Kansas to visit her, but I would like to be able to do that.
Yeah, at some point, right?
Because we sat in court and saw the back of Chelsea's head for a long time this summer, but really never got to make face-to-face greetings, much less, say anything important that we wanted to say directly to her. So it would be great to be able to meet her. But you know what, Kat, I'm going to have to jump because I have another event going on.
Awesome.
And let's talk now that you're back in New York City about the weekend.
Yeah, I'm leaving tomorrow morning to drive back to New York. I didn't leave yet. Still in Ohio.
Be safe.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night, Deb. Okay, Debra Sweet of worldcan'twait.org, and it's codepink.org for the drone summit this weekend. Yeah, it's good that it's going to be indoors. I'm not exactly sure what the weather is going to be. I think it might be warming up maybe a little bit by the weekend. Before we go to Elena Sassower of the Center for Judicial Accountability, I wanted to briefly mention, I don't know if anybody, or I'm sure people have heard of the movie Olympus Has Fallen. I mean, yeah, I watched it, and I had to shut it off at the last scene. I mean, again, I don't want to talk too much about it, but it's like so much propaganda. I mean, like, I can't believe it's just like so obvious how the system has to really keep the public really fed this constant diet of, terrorists, and no one thinks. I mean, even if there are people that do want to, perhaps attack this country, no one is going to tell. I mean, this country for sure is not going to tell you that it's only a normal reaction for the complete oppression that we are doing. No one's going to tell you that these people are just so fed up with us being the aggressor and taking over and completely for decades. I mean, for 100 years that this country has been. I mean, for those who maybe want to look into this, look up John Perkins, read Confessions of an Economic Hitman. I mean, get it right from the source. I mean, he did it. He talks about. I would love to have him on. I try to write to him. I've tried emailing him. I mean, I'm sure he's a busy guy. I met him years ago, actually, back in 2001 or 2 or 3, when I was working at the Omega Institute, which I've mentioned, and he teaches workshops up there. He teaches workshops mainly on kind of Amazonian, kind of native, getting back in touch with nature type stuff and rituals and things like that. And it was kind of interesting how when I was working at the Omega Institute and sat in on one of his workshops, I just thought this guy was, practicing and teaching this indigenous cultural type stuff. And it wasn't until I watched Zeitgeist Addendum that I was like, oh, wow, look at that. It's the shaman guy from the Omega Institute. I had no idea he was an economic hitman. And his explanation or, just revealing of everything that he revealed in Zeitgeist Addendum, and I read Confessions of an Economic Hitman. So for those of you that really want to get more information on that, I would recommend looking and studying a bit about John Perkins. And so we will take a quick break and bring Elena Sassower from the Center for Judicial Accountability next. Please stick around. Okay, we are back from our short break, and we do have on the line Elena Sassower, and I'm from the Center for Judicial Accountability, and I just want to just quickly say how I first met you. On the second Occupy anniversary, there was a scheduled event. I wasn't exactly sure what it was, but me and a friend of mine, my friend Cecilia Frontero, went to the Pace University event. All I knew was that Governor Cuomo was in attendance, and it was on corruption. And so we went. My friend Cecilia, we were outside Pace University, and right away she's complaining to me about the police and how there's just cops, Gestapos, like just being very, Gestapo, like they do. And there was a line formed of people waiting online to get in. And then there was a barricade across the street of a bunch of people. And I didn't really know what the heck was going on. And the next thing I knew, I think I was going across the street, and then this gentleman started yelling at this cop. Later, I got to interview him. I have the YouTube videos are on my YouTube channel, April, like the month, and Waters, Watters. But then, right, I was over speaking to the people behind the barricade across the street, and you came out of Pace University to address these people about why they were not being allowed into this public hearing on corruption under the Moreland Act.
Yes, well, actually, this was an extremely important hearing. You almost got it right, except when you said that Governor Cuomo was in attendance. Wasn't in attendance, but he had formed this commission to investigate public corruption. And in answer to your question, is it the Moreland Commission? It's called the Moreland Commission, but its actual name, its official name, is the Commission to Investigate Public Corruption. It's called the Moreland Commission sometimes because one of the provisions under which the governor established it is the Moreland Act. But the Moreland Act is actually a very limited legal provision. There is another provision of the law which really gives the commission the kind of extraordinary scope that it has to look throughout state government local New York government, the state government, and investigate corruption wherever, top to bottom, all the branches of government. A commission that would have been formed under the Moreland Act would have been limited to the executive branch. This commission is not limited to the executive branch. It has breathtaking powers and scope to examine corruption. So the reason why this hearing was so important was because it was the first hearing of this commission. And an opportunity, or it should have been an opportunity, for the public to be heard, because, you know, the government is all around us, and people have a lot to say about government. They're always interacting, interfacing with government at local levels, you know, in the towns they live, the villages, the cities, counties, at all different levels, state. They have a lot of information about the abuses and the corruption of government, and this commission was established by the governor, Governor Cuomo, on the pretext that there was a need to restore public confidence in government, public trust in government, because of the scandals, the corruption scandals that had occurred. Now, the truth be told, there is a widespread corruption throughout the state, and there is a tremendous need for such a commission. But the governor really intended the commission not to do the job that he purported it was going to do, which was to root out government corruption, but really to achieve a predetermined result of public campaign financing and other, what he touted as reforms. It really wasn't intended to investigate corruption, the breadth of corruption, and that's why the first hearing, that you attended, was structured and held the way it was, which really shut out the public from testifying. You weren't able to get in, right?
Right. So what happened that day on September 17th, and why those people were not allowed to get in? Like they had said that they were registered and all of this stuff, and they were talking about. I mean, a lot of the people were talking about like child abduction stuff. I was like, where's that coming from? You know, like I actually there was one man waiting on the line after I went back across the street, and because I did this show from standing out there on the street, and I put that man that was yelling on, and he got, you know, later on, I mean, he was explaining why he was yelling, like the undercover detective, you know, that just being very disrespectful, not identifying himself. And there was a man standing next to him that I later had on a show like a week or so later, who was talking all about how these child protective services are not that, and how, you know, I mean, everything is just about money, and nothing really is what it says it.
Well, the hearing was an important opportunity for people to come forward with their information, with their evidence about the abuses and the corruption for which there needs to be investigation. But as I said, notwithstanding the rhetoric of the governor in creating the commission, it was actually a front to achieve something that was limited to the governor's objective of public campaign financing and other electoral changes. And to that end, there was no real desire to permit members of the public to be heard. So let me give you some background to how the hearing was put together, how it was announced, because it's really quite shocking. And what happened was this. The governor, on July 2nd, held a press conference announcing the creation of this commission to investigate public corruption. And in that endeavor was also the Attorney General Schneiderman, participating in empowering the commission so that it could investigate throughout the state all manner of public corruption. Well, a week and a half later, on July 16th, the commission comes out with a press release announcing that it's going to hold its first round of public hearings. Now, when is that first round of public hearings supposed to be? Not in the coming weeks, but 2 months later. The first hearing was not to be until September 17th in New York City, followed by a hearing on September 18th in Buffalo, and then a hearing on the 24th of September. The second hearing was in Buffalo on the 18th, and the third hearing was supposed to be in Albany on September 24th. Well, the press announcement was July 16th. So there was this long lag time in which no public hearings were to be held. Meanwhile, the commission is operating behind closed doors, interviewing, quote, good government groups, quizzing them as to their analyses of flaws in the system. I mean, which good government groups, what is it they are presenting? Why isn't what they're presenting being done at public hearings along with the public, which is not going to be heard until September? Well, I contacted the Commission to Investigate Public Corruption, and I questioned them, firstly, about why their hearings were being held so far into the future. And one of the things I observed about the hearings, and I said to them is, well, your hearing announcement doesn't have any RSVP. It doesn't require any registration. How is this going to work? All you indicate is that the doors open at 5 for hearings that are to begin at 6 p.m. Is this going to be a first-come, first-served basis? How do people know if they're going to be able to testify?
Right.
How are people going to know how long they have to testify?
It seems like they're just letting them in like an audience.
Right. I said you need to have a registration procedure. Let me indeed share with you that back in 2009, when the Senate Judiciary Committee held hearings on the New York State Commission on Judicial Conduct and on the attorney disciplinary system, they were so swamped by people who wanted to testify that they couldn't be accommodated. So if you're going to be holding hearings on corruption generally throughout the state, all manner of corruption, not confined to the Commission on Judicial Conduct, the attorney disciplinary system, for example, you can expect to have a deluge of people coming forward. You will never be able to accommodate them. You need to put in place a procedure. Well, the response to that suggestion, which I made immediately on July 19th, I already had called the commission, was to completely ignore any registration procedure. Meanwhile, the weeks went by. It was still an open-ended sort of thing. And, of course, you know what happens when you announce hearings 2 months in advance is that people forget about them. And I saw, lo and behold, the press wasn't publicizing the hearings, and that people weren't going to realize that there were hearings. So I am the director and co-founder of a nonpartisan, nonprofit citizens organization. We document corruption in the judiciary, involving judicial selection, judicial discipline, the judicial process itself, the corruption of the Commission on Judicial Conduct, which is the monitor of New York State judges, corruption going up the ranks from the lowest courts to the highest courts. And I understood that this was an opportunity for victims who have experience with the abuses, the corruption in the courts, the worthlessness of all safeguards. This was their opportunity.
So what happened on September
so
17th?
I sent out an email alert to victims, and I said, "It's your opportunity to testify." So they started to contact the Commission to Investigate Public Corruption, and the Commission was so inundated with calls of people clamoring to testify that, sure enough, they put in place a registration procedure. But the registration procedure was very unclear as to what was required. In any event, even with the registration procedure, they had so many people that they had to turn people away because they had scheduled the hearings in Manhattan in a room that was of a very modest size, because you see, their expectation was that there wouldn't be a lot of people because they had scheduled it 2 months in advance. It was really kept hush-hush. The intent was not that people would know about it and actually show up. But when I started rattling and raising the flag and making noises and telling people, this is your chance, this is your opportunity.
And you did that through your website, Judge Watch, www.judgewatch.org.
Exactly. Our website is www.judgewatch.org, and right on our homepage, we have a people's campaign to hold the Commission to Investigate Public Corruption true to its name and announced purpose. Because, as I said, although it was given a very grand name by the governor and the Attorney General, and it was supposed to investigate all manner of corruption, the fact of the matter is that it was intended only to be a front and not to do any of those things. But what ultimately happened is that at the hearing, it was in too small a room, and even the room, not only was the room too small, but they only put in the room probably half the number of chairs as could be accommodated. So the result was that people who came, like you, came and wanted to be part of something so important.
But I don't think many people got in. Like, I heard that room kind of stayed fairly empty.
The room was very empty, actually, because there were only probably half the number of chairs as could be accommodated. Again, they made no effort to accommodate large numbers of people, or really sufficient numbers of people. They could have held that hearing anywhere. They could have held it in an auditorium. This was, you identified that it was held at Pace University. Pace University has a facility right across from City Hall, and in that building there is an auditorium. Well, they could have held the hearing in the auditorium. They could have held it in an armory. There are lots of locations that could have accommodated hundreds and hundreds of people.
So why didn't they let those people in? Those people behind the barricades across the street. I mean, they could have let those people in. They were registered.
Well, that's exactly so. They even the people who had registered, they started calling people, turning them away, telling them that they couldn't even there wouldn't be even room in the hearing room for them. They started calling them in the morning and the late afternoon, people who had requested to testify, and they also started to tell people that that what they wished to testify about was not on topic. Well, I'm familiar with
corruption is the topic, you know. I mean,
corruption, exactly. But you see, what they wanted. You see, the only testimony really that they wanted to stage hearings, and the witnesses that they wanted to hear from were the quote good government groups who have as their agenda a public campaign financing. Now, undoubtedly, there are problems with our system of campaign financing and regulation of monies that go into campaigns. But this is a complicated issue, and reasonable people can disagree as to the solution. The forum for examining what are the best solutions is a forum where all sides are able to present. That was not the intent here in creating this commission. This commission was rigged to produce a given result. And to that end, only the, quote, good government groups that support public campaign financing were the ones that were given an inside track, were able to input to the commission, were going to be invited to publicly testify, and you see, one of the deceits here is that all of our problems, all of our public corruption problems, are the consequence of how we finance political campaigns. Well, that's utterly preposterous and simplistic. There's a huge galaxy of public corruption having nothing to do with political campaigns and financing and that sort of thing. Certainly, judicial corruption, the corruption involving different levels of the judiciary and the dysfunction within the oversight mechanisms, the corruption of the oversight mechanisms, that has nothing to do with public campaign finance.
And so they didn't let those people in. I'm still like, because myself, like, I have no idea, like, why those people who were registered, they wouldn't let them in.
Well, because, the answer is that they did not want to have public testimony about corruption that was other than the corruption they wanted to focus on.
I get you.
Right. Now, for example, okay, they allow, and this is really quite monstrous, because
so they could just make up the rules, like, right then and there. Like the criteria for letting these people in, they just kind of, change at whim, it sounds like.
Well, actually, that's very close to what did happen. And in fact, what they did after the first hearing, because as I indicated, there were supposed to be 3 hearings. Even before the first New York City hearing was held on September 17th, they had pulled off their website any notice about the Buffalo hearing, which was supposed to be on September 18th. That just evaporated. They didn't even explain why that had been removed, why they were not going to be holding a hearing in Buffalo. The only other hearing was the hearing in Albany. Well, after what took place in Manhattan, where even excluding the public as they tried to, and putting the hearing in a room that was too small,
Right.
and restricting the testimony, telling people wrongfully that they wouldn't be able to testify because their testimony was not germane. I didn't mention that as part of a registration process, registrants were required to submit written testimony. So, they could use that as a screen, to censor out what they didn't want to hear. And they did that in some of the cases. But what happened was they did allow about an hour and a half testimony, public testimony, and what was presented was so devastating because witness after witness, most of the witnesses talked about, actually, and not surprisingly, since I was the one who had sent out this alert to the network of judicial victims who are members of the center, who are on our email list, and I had encouraged people to send my email alert onward and onward. Most of the witnesses testifying were testifying about judicial corruption and the fact that all the safeguards, all the oversight mechanisms, remedies, public officers were worthless as far as securing the integrity of the judiciary. So, for example, people were saying, well, not only were they victims of abuses by judges and by lawyers, but their complaints to the Commission on Judicial Conduct were thrown out without investigation. The attorney disciplinary bodies, their complaints were tossed out. They had gone to the DAs, they had gone to the U.S. attorneys, they had gone to the Inspector General, they had gone to all the agencies, public officers, and they had gotten only cover-up, never investigation of the evidence of corruption that they had to present.
It sounds like these people, this Moreland Commission or whatever, who is supposed to be looking into this corruption. I mean, it just it's weird to me. Like it seems like they never expect to actually have to do it. I mean, it's just weird. Well, it's like when you actually expect people to kind of do their job, it's like, oh my God, like I actually have to, do this.
Just to get back to what you're saying, but first to finish off what I had been saying, the testimony was so devastating in New York that the commission made sure that never again would there be another opportunity for the public to come forward and give testimony about the range of corruption that needs to be investigated. So, for example,
that's ridiculous.
In the hearing that they then held in Albany, they restricted the topics to campaign financing, lobbying, political housekeeping accounts of the political parties. In other words, they restricted the topic of the hearing to things that are not within the knowledge and experience of members of the public about which they would want to testify. So the public was essentially excluded from the Albany hearings. In fact, they ended the Albany hearings early because they without even asking whether there were other people who wanted to testify about other corruption, as indeed there were. There were people who traveled up from New York City who had been shut out of the Albany hearing, who traveled up to shut out of the New York City hearing. They traveled up to Albany to testify.
Where did you say? Where did you say that one was? Where so many people like it was so devastating. The what the
well
where did that take place?
Well, that was in New York City. That was the first hearing. And let me just pause to say that listeners can see for themselves these hearings and see for themselves how illegitimately the commission has been operating, because we have gathered all the videos and documentation and put it on our website. Our website is www.judgewatch.org, and from our homepage is a hyperlink called CJA's, we're the Center for Judicial Accountability. It's called CJA's People's Campaign to hold the commission to investigate public corruption true to its name and announced purpose.
Oh, I see. I'm on your I'm on
site.
It. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you click on that link, it brings up a menu of other hyperlinks, and one of them is the people have something to say and evidence to back it up. And if you click on that, you can see the hearings. The first hearing in Manhattan on September 17th, and you can see the full video. You can also see a clip of my testimony, and my testimony is largely a protest as to how the hearing was structured to exclude the public, to bar the public. And
so
I
ridiculous.
protested on behalf of all those who were not able to get inside, not able to present testimony. And the commission did not do this accidentally. It was done deliberately. I said, I gave the commission notice 2 months in advance of the hearing that they needed to put in place a registration procedure. They cared not one whit, because their intention was always to keep it small, to keep it in a room.
They don't want too much of a mirror being held up to them. But
exactly.
I just we're gonna just take a short break soon. I was thinking perhaps what we could do maybe when we come back from the break, we'll talk a bit about the hearing that we actually got to sit in on, that they had at the Jacob Javits Center. I forget exactly what that date was now, a couple of weeks ago.
It was October 28th, and it was also in New York City, as the first hearing had been. Yes,
right, and what I was going to do, I have a couple of the videos on my YouTube channel, and I was going to talk. Play perhaps. I don't want to play one that's too long, but there are two that I'm kind of I'm tossing which one around. The one where the guy was talking about triage, Hightower, I think the guy's name.
Yes. No, that was
what's his name?
Dan Castleman.
Yeah, Castleman, that's right. Sorry.
Dan Castleman, who was one of the 25 members of the commission to investigate public corruption.
Yeah, he was, and they were addressing the three guys from the Board of Elections.
Yes. And,
okay, so let's take
a
quick.
Very important hearing. Absolutely.
Okay,
But it was also one that is important for a reason that we'll get to as we discuss it.
Okay, we're just going to take a quick
Not immediately apparent.
Yes. Okay, we'll be back shortly. Okay, we are back with Elena Sassower of the Center for Judicial Accountability, and we're talking about this commission that is supposed to be investigating corruption in government offices.
Throughout New York state government, local government, state government. But it is not doing that job that it is supposed to be doing under the executive order that created it, the rhetoric that accompanied it. And actually, it is up to we the people to take action to be sure that it does what it's supposed to do what we need it to do.
People got to start doing their jumping jacks.
Right. Well, which is to say, and we've been talking about the hearings, and we were going to now talk about the third hearing, which was held in New York City. But the important thing about that third hearing is that the public was entirely excluded from testifying. There was not even a registration for witnesses to testify. The commission announced that the public could attend only, as if the public has nothing to say.
Exactly. The whole they're eliminating the very people that are supposed to be in the spotlight. So let me
absolutely.
So, this is the what was it, the 28th of October. We actually were, there was a very few people who attended this who, of course, didn't get to testify. And this is a video of Mr. Castleman addressing 3 lawyers from the Board of Elections, and he's talking about triage. Let me know. Hopefully the sound will be good. I have the volume turned up as high as it goes.
I can sum up what he said.
Yeah, that's such a drag.
Well, let me just say that again, on our website, if you go to judgewatch.org and then click that hyperlink to our People's Campaign, it brings up a menu of web pages. Go to the hyperlink that says the people have something to say and evidence to back it up, and you can scroll down to the third hearing, which was also in New York City like the first. It was on October 28th, and the testimony that you're referring to was it was actually an examination by Daniel Castleman, one of the commission members of the 3 members of the Board of Elections. And he was talking about triage in the sense that complaints needed to be prioritized because the Board of Elections was saying that they don't have the resources to handle complaints. And so he was saying, well, okay, but in a situation like that, you do triage, you take the most serious, significant complaints, and those are the ones that you don't neglect.
It's pretty basic. I mean, it's like you start with the basics. I mean, that's not like that complicated. And he was just asking him. I really wish that the volume was better, but so he was asking them. So what do they do? Like they just take everything in sequential order and they get to the most pressing, like when they get to it.
Right, but in fact they weren't even getting to it.
Right.
And what he was saying is here are some serious complaints, and you sat on them for over a year, and then they were dismissed. In fact, one of the DAs, I don't know if it was DA Hogan or DA Rice, each commission members, one of them said, well, if you're going to dismiss it, you need to, at least if you're going to dismiss it, you don't have to wait so long to do it. What's taking you so long to do it? But the fact of the matter is that the dismissals were wrongful dismissals. They were without necessarily having investigated some very significant allegations. The fact is, however, that the Board of Elections is low-hanging fruit, and this kind of interrogation needed to be directed not only to the Board of Elections, but to the whole panoply of commissions, agencies, offices of government that receive complaints and fail to investigate them, sit on them, dismiss them. I mean, that's par for the course. That's part of what the witnesses who testified at the first hearing in that hour and a half were saying. They were saying that everywhere we go with our complaints, we get cover up. We don't get investigation. And among the places that they were saying that they go are to the district attorneys. Now, the Commission to Investigate Public Corruption is comprised of 10 district attorneys from among its 25 members. 10 sitting district attorneys. And then there are others like, for example, Dan Castleman, who came out of a district attorney's office. In other words, there's a lot of interest on the part of the commission, you would imagine, not to examine the shortcomings of the district attorney's offices. And that's part of what they need to be investigating, because the district attorneys are really the principal law enforcement officers, criminal investigators, when it comes to public corruption. They need to be putting their own house in order, not just using the Board of Elections as a whipping boy. But there's one other thing that I do want to say on this subject, and that is that we need to have investigations of the corruption that infests our government throughout, and that investigation can take place in part through this Commission to Investigate Public Corruption, but actually what the Commission to Investigate Public Corruption is doing is the responsibility of a functioning legislature. A functioning legislature has a myriad of committees, and the committees all have different jurisdictions, and they're supposed to be holding oversight hearings on the laws, on how agencies and offices function on an ongoing basis. And unfortunately, our New York State legislature is utterly dysfunctional, non-functional, and really that problem, that issue, needs to be the first order of business. But that really is more about how the legislature is structured by virtue of its rules which vest inordinate powers in leadership and create the 3 men in a room where the governor goes behind closed doors with the Assembly Speaker and the temporary Senate President, and they hatch together whatever they want to do, and the legislature really just functions as a rubber stamp. That distortion of democracy also results in committees of the legislature which fail to operate in any cognizable way. That really needs to be the focus of what this commission is doing.
So then, this so-called public hearing at the Jacob Javits Center is, what is the point of that? Like, what's going to happen? The video that I was trying to play, I did write in the description about, Mr. Castleman was asking the Board of Election how they don't take anonymous tips. Remember when they were talking about that? If a really corrupt tip comes into them, usually it's through email and it's anonymous, which is how you get a lot of good tips.
Exactly.
They don't look into it. So it sounds like you're not even kind of like the focus is not even on the Board of Elections. you're kind of keeping it more on this commission that is like they're the corrupt ones,
Well,
not the Board of Elections.
well, because the same questions that they were asking the Board of Elections about how they handle complaints, including anonymous complaints, are questions that they need to be posing to all the various agencies and commissions. It's not exclusive to the Board of Elections, as if everyone else is on the up and up and functioning. No. And that's why they don't want witness testimony at these public hearings, because the witnesses, the members of the public who come forward unscripted,
Organic. That's why I called this organic.
Exactly. They give the on the ground reality of what's happening. Not the, and that's what the commission doesn't want to hear, doesn't want to have heard. It's what the governor and the attorney general and the power brokers don't want to get out. I mean, they want to pretend that this commission is. I mean, again, this commission was called Commission to Investigate Public Corruption. It was not called Commission to Investigate campaign financing, Commission to Investigate the Board of Elections. It was called something that was very broad, because that's actually its mandate, to look throughout government. And but the backstory was that was going to be a front, and that they were going to put together hearings where the public was going to be excluded, that were going to be kept hush-hush, that no one would know about except the invited witnesses who would testify on those very narrow issues, as if that was the entirety, the sum total of public corruption. But let me just conclude, because I see our time is coming to an end, and I just want to help listeners feel very empowered, because they can take advantage of this wonderful opportunity of the commission to come forward and be heard about all they know and all they have experienced about government, public corruption. That is, corruption involving public officers, public officials, public agencies. And what they can do is contact me, and I would be happy to assist them in making a written presentation to the Commission to Investigate Public Corruption, outlining their information and their evidence, obviously in support of an opportunity to testify publicly. But even if there is no opportunity to testify publicly at further public hearings, which of course would be an outrage, we have an opportunity to inundate the Commission. And on our website, we have posted names of people who have provided information to the Commission. Each person has a hyperlink to a web page, and anyone who would like to make a submission to the Commission to Investigate Public Corruption, we will help them and post their written submission on a web page that is their own web page, so that it can be as public as if there were public hearings. And so there will be
the one that that we finally did get to attend. Why were there not more people at that one?
Well, there weren't more people at that hearing because, once again, it was limited in its scope. Not only was the third hearing was in many ways the most egregious, because it was also limited in its scope, as the second hearing in Buffalo had been. But on top of that, the public was not going to be permitted to testify, expressly not permitted to testify. So, and it was held at the Javits Center, which is not necessarily so accessible by public transportation.
We had a couple. I don't know if you remember. The few people that were there. Like, remember they were standing up and they had the money taped across their mouths.
Absolutely. And but again, those were staged. Yeah. Those were, with all, I think that the issues of campaign financing are important issues, but they are not the only issues that need to be examined when you talk about.
You were calling out. You were calling out at the hearing.
Yes. I did. I called out at 2 points. One of them was when the Board of Elections was being grilled. I said, what has the legislature been doing? The Assembly has an elections law committee. The Senate has an elections committee. Where have their oversight hearings been? I mean, what was coming out from the Board of Elections was shameful. Shameful. Okay, where have the legislative committees been all these years as far as oversight hearings? When have they last held an oversight hearing? So that was one point which I called out. Another point was when Daniel Castleman was making reference to the handling of anonymous complaints. And I said, and what about the DAs? Do the DAs, okay, that is, it's the pot calling the kettle black. I mean, the DAs routinely require that complaints be signed, be sworn. U.S. attorneys, other investigative bodies. The issues relating to the Board of Ed are not exclusive. Board of Elections are not exclusive to the Board of Elections. But bottom line here is that where we go from here is that the public has an opportunity to be heard, to come out and give information, give evidence to the Commission to Investigate Public Corruption. If listeners contact me, and they can contact me through our website, and my email is Elena, ELENA, @judgewatch.org. I am happy to assist them with putting together a written presentation to the Commission to Investigate Public Corruption, posting it on our website so that it can be publicly known, the kinds of corruption that they have experienced, that they have evidence about, that they would like to have investigated by this Commission. Only by making public what the Commission is getting will we prevent the cover-up of what it should be investigating, but is not. Obviously, if people don't come forward, then it can always say, "Well, we didn't know about any other corruption. We didn't know that there was any problem." So, public has to come forward and make that information known, so that the Commission doesn't have the excuse, "Oh, we didn't know. It was never presented to us."
I mean, it's amazing that these people, they just want to get paid to, relax and have a good time. Like, they don't actually want to do what they're getting paid to do. I mean, it's ridiculous. But I was hoping, do you have to go? Because I kind of had a question for you.
Oh, I'm happy to answer your questions.
I was tell me about like they were trying to get you to stop sending things to Hillary Clinton's office, and you spent 6 months in jail. Is that right?
Well, yes. Now you're speaking about something entirely. Well, it's not entirely different. It's actually related. I have been working for over 20 years documenting judicial corruption on state, local, and federal levels, and that includes the process of by which federal judges are appointed to the bench. And back in 2003, President Bush nominated a judge from our New York's highest state court, the Court of Appeals, the New York Court of Appeals, to the Intermediate Federal Court in New York, which is the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. And that judge was a judge who I knew to be corrupt because I had worked for many, many years on an important lawsuit against the New York State Commission on Judicial Conduct. That is the commission, again, that is charged with the duty to receive and investigate complaints against state judges. And that commission is a corrupt facade. We had sued the commission, and that lawsuit went up to our highest state court on which this particular judge was sitting, and he was thereafter nominated for a federal judgeship. Well, Senator Clinton, as a New York State senator, has an important role in the approval of judges for New York federal courts. And she has the power, as Senator Schumer likewise has the power, to object so that a nomination does not proceed to confirmation. I provided her office with the information and the evidence as to what this particular judge had done, and her staff was disinterested, and their behavior was so inappropriate that I contacted the chief of staff, her chief of staff. And the results of my contacting the chief of staff of her office to complain about how her counsel was acting and failing to examine and investigate the evidence of corruption by a judge who was going to be seated on the Intermediate Federal Court in New York was to call Capitol Police to have them threaten me with arrest if I came down to Washington to request to testify in opposition at the U.S. Senate Judiciary Committee hearings.
It's really scary.
Well, I did go down to Washington, and I did request to be permitted to testify. The Senate Judiciary Committee had my request in writing.
Wesley or something, the guy's name is? Wesley?
Richard Wesley is the judge whose confirmation I opposed. And it was a setup that was orchestrated through Senator Clinton's office, and I was arrested on a trumped-up disruption of Congress charge. My crime consisted of my respectful request to testify in opposition at the Senate Judiciary Committee hearing. What I said was, my precise words were, and I read them from a sheet of paper that I was holding because I was so nervous. I didn't want to mess up because I was fearful that maybe I would be jumped and be precluded from even speaking. But my words were, Mr. Chairman, there's citizen opposition to Judge Wesley based upon his documented corruption as a New York Court of Appeals judge, may I testify? And for those respectful words, which were not spoken until after the hearing was already gavelled adjourned, I was taken out, handcuffed, held over, and arraigned on a bogus disruption of Congress church.
It's unbelievable. Like, they put the people that speak out in jail, and meanwhile, all the people doing all the corruption, they don't even get addressed. They don't even get investigated. I mean, it's just more psychotic.
Well, there's a complete. You see, this is why we have such corruption in the state judiciary, because the monitor of the state judiciary is the Commission on Judicial Conduct. And rather than that commission investigating legitimate complaints, it dumps them. And that's why we sued the commission. The case went up to the highest state court and was dumped. And at every level, it was dumped, and was the commission survived only because of fraudulent judicial decisions. And when I say fraudulent judicial decisions that disregard the facts, disregard the law, that these are not decisions that we dislike or disagree with. These are decisions that are indefensible, insupportable. One of the things that our citizens organization does is document how judges render decisions that are fictions, that are judicial perjuries, that bear no resemblance to the facts and the law. They make it up. Okay, so where do you go? What do you do in a situation like that? I mean, whether you're a plaintiff, whether you're a defendant, I mean, your life, your liberty, your reputation, your family, your finances hinge upon decisions of judges who can corruptly, lawlessly throw all due process, all respect for evidence, all respect for the law out the window, the facts out the window. And where are your remedies? Where do you go?
Right. Can I just when we were talking, when I called you earlier today, and I was telling you that I wanted to make the focus of the show about health. And then, you responded that it is about health. It's the illness of our governmental offices. And can you kind of, I mean, I don't know if you remember what you said.
Sure. I do remember what I said, because the fact of the matter is that it is so destructive of mental health, of physical health.
Yeah.
To be exposed to corruption, abuse of power. It so unhinges a person's sense of fairness and rightness and the way things are supposed to be.
Exactly.
And checks and balance. We all are to believe that we live in a society with checks and balances and the rule of law, and when people discover that often there aren't checks and balances that are functioning, the rule of law matters not one whit. I mean, the law that exists on the books is not necessarily law that you can get any enforcement of. And if you can't get enforcement of law on the books, as it is written, it's as if it doesn't exist. And I cannot begin to tell you how many people who contact me and who are members of this center. We're a citizens organization, make change. But how many people who really have gone through such an ordeal, and they're devastated physically, and they recount that they've had heart attacks and they've had strokes, and that they just it has destroyed their whole ability to enjoy life, to appreciate life.
That's what
They're
I mean.
broken.
It's as if really, like, the people that are in these positions of power, they really get into it more for their own sense of like prestige rather than to really be there to do a good job for the public. And I have another question for you. Have you ever heard of something called the caravan of corruption?
Oh, tell me about that.
Yeah, I was going through because I was listening to you speak, and then I recollect this. I'm just trying to see when I posted it. Oh, it was last year exactly, last October the 23rd. I posted the caravan of corruption. It was really interesting. They had it at Foley Square in New York. Of course, not a lot of people were there. And they had these, I would say, like 3 feet high, sort of animated little caricatures of all of these corrupt, like Congress people, senators, and whatnot. And again, I was going to attempt to play one of the videos and hope that the volume should definitely be better on this, um and because it was really interesting. They had, not only did they have the yeah, I would say about 3 foot high kind of caricatures of these corrupt politicians, but they also had like these little kind of signs on them saying like what they did, and I believe that like a bunch of them actually served some time.
Well, you see, I just want to say, and that is very important, that there are public demonstrations of that nature. But that is no substitute
Yeah.
for what we're talking about with respect to the Commission to Investigate Public Corruption. Because the Commission to Investigate Public Corruption is an opportunity that the people have to present information and evidence for investigation to make change. The Commission is empowered to do that. Commission is empowered to investigate, make referrals to criminal prosecutorial authorities, to make recommendations for legislative reform and the like. That's very different from, just like a rally and a protest. That that's not. There's no body before whom you're rallying and protesting. It's kind of in the air. You're hoping to raise a public consciousness. Here, the public has an opportunity, and the consciousness that I would like to raise among your listeners is that if they have information, if they have knowledge of public corruption in the judiciary or elsewhere in state and local government in New York, this is their opportunity to come forward and have it investigated.
It really is up to the people. I mean, that's just it. On the I can't help, I love the subject of health. Money is, we can't just expect that because we pay taxes or whatever to these people that they're necessarily going to do their jobs, because I mean, money is not a real thing. I mean, it doesn't, it's just, fake. I mean, that's what they're there for, to get paid. Like, they're not, I mean, to me, I think, like, if you try to eat money, what good is it going to do? It's not going to provide you the vitamins or the minerals that your body requires. So like, money doesn't make things go. I mean, it makes things
Well,
go the opposite way.
Well, money is power. unfortunately. And
it's because it's like it's conditioned. I mean, it and the reality of it, it's like is that it really, I just, I know it's going to take a lot of reconditioning of the public. I mean, I know a lot of people really don't.
well, I don't think it's even a matter of reconditioning. I think it's a matter of the public being informed. And one of the
Yeah,
really
well, that's
important things that
reconditioning.
you're doing with your videos and with your show, this show, for example, is you're helping get the word out. And the word has not gotten out because if you look at the mainstream media coverage, they do not disclose how the hearings, I mean, something as basic as the hearings, how the hearings have been conducted, the exclusion of the public, the fact that at the third hearing the public couldn't even testify and it was topic limited, that the second hearing it was topic limited, excluding the public. At the first hearing, the public was turned away because it was in too small a room and they didn't make proper arrangements to accommodate the public with knowledge in advance that this was going to be happening, and then making bogus claims to registrants that their testimony was off topic. But as I said, you are getting the word out that there is a commission to investigate public corruption, that it is something that the public can and should be interacting with, contributing to. We need to inundate the commission with our information, with our evidence in support of investigation, so that this commission is not going to be the front that it was really intended to be all along. Okay, we're going to hold it true to its name. Right. That it should do what.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, like,
it's an election year coming up. This is a very well. One of the things we had talked about is how, as far as health, how important it is that people have a sense of empowerment. Because when people feel that they are empowered, that they can do something, that there's a way that
that's what I mean. Like that's the healthy part of it. Is like people need to realize that they have to do something. It's your action that's required. Not just like whatever, paying your taxes or working or something like that, and then expecting things to go. It has to come from you. Like it's the people that need to hold a fire to these people's butts, and that's I mean, seriously. I mean, I just feel like if you don't mind, I really didn't want to end. If you want to stay on for the next 10 minutes, you can, but I didn't want to end the show without speaking a bit about, like I've been in Ohio for just over a week because my brother had, surgery. Like, I mean, he's actually in pretty, serious condition. And because I'm always talking about nature, I'm always talking about health all the time. And I mean, ever since I was very, very young, I could just see how unhealthy, people don't deal with things. Everyone has this attitude of kind of like downplaying things, and that left me with an extremely like holy shit. I mean, to be perfectly honest, because I feel stuff. I mean, my body knows things, and I was kind of like this when I was young. I was like this whistleblower, and I basically, kind of, you get pushed to the side, and so I got just very into, right. I mean, health. I mean, it's just a matter of living, to your fullest. Like, we're not using all of ourselves, and so now, this last week I've been in an unbelievably incredible situation of watching my brother now trying to regain, like he went into this deficit of his, his mobility. I mean, he has to spend months now, regaining this mobility that he lost. And like for all of my life, I've always been trying to get people to don't lose over time. It's the slow and gradual over time that people don't realize that you're gradually losing your mobility. People are not even using their full mobility of what they have. And I've always been aware of that. Like I never felt like, I was being taught or encouraged to use my full mobility. And when I was trying to use my full mobility, I was being discouraged, just like you're being discouraged by Hillary Clinton. They put you in jail, for God's sake, because heaven forbid, Elena Sassower, you're a healthy person and you can't help that you're just healthy and that your body is like fully functioning. How dare you use all of your full functions in this world, and use it to hold up a mirror to these people. I mean, it's
Well,
ridiculous.
we try to get our body politic to be healthy too, and that's what we try to reach outside of ourselves and make a difference, and not only work at our own health,
Right.
but also the health of the community and how we govern ourselves. And it's a struggle, but very important, essential, worthwhile. And as I said, what is most exhilarating, I think, is when we have opportunities that can give us that sense of empowerment, as we have now with the Commission to Investigate Public Corruption. Because so often we say, but what can we do that's really going to make a difference? Nothing will ever change. Nothing will. Well, we know if we don't do anything, nothing will change. That's for sure. If we do something, we have a possibility. And there are rare moments that are optimum key moments. And this is one of them, and that's why I am very grateful to you for your giving me this opportunity to help alert the public to this opportunity to come forward, to be heard, to bring forward information and evidence about public corruption, so that we can have change and we can make a healthier New York State.
Amen. That's really what it comes down to. I always like to really, because health, if I like to have that be the common denominator that unifies, because I think maybe people get intimidated when you put in like all these kind of political terminology, when it's really not about that. I mean, it really is about using all of the what we have, and people are not using all of their capabilities, and it does make people healthier, because exactly, I mean, like you were saying before about the people's lives that are being ruined because of all this corruption that's going on. It's like, don't wait until it hits you.
It certainly affects them physically. It destroys them psychologically and physically. Over time, it's very enervating and destructive of their lives, their health, and
yeah. I mean, and watching my brother, who's normally a healthy, vibrant, capable person, be in this situation now where, 'cause, like, I'm always blogging about, the mind-body connection and how important it is to listen to our bodies. I mean, all of this stuff that you're talking about comes down to health. I mean, right, these corrupt people are just going to continue to do what they're doing because the people don't stand up. So they're really Sorry, Paula was just sending me a message telling me that the sound is breaking up.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let me then just thank you again
Okay,
for this
thank you.
opportunity.
We'll have you
And
on again, Elena. So it's www.judgewatch.org.
judgewatch.org, www.judgewatch.org, and I can be reached also by phone, 914-455-4373. My email is Elena, ELENA, at judgewatch.org.
And it's the Center for Judicial Accountability.
Accountability, and if you go to the homepage of judgewatch.org, you can see our Citizens Campaign. And I urge and invite everyone to help us in holding the Commission to Investigate Public Corruption true to its name and its announced purpose.
Well, thank you so much, Elena, and keep being a thorn in their side.
Well, thank you so much for your activism.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it, and have posted your videos on our site in connection with the September 17th hearing in Manhattan and the October 28th hearing in Manhattan. Your videos are posted.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you for that contribution to the documentary record of
My pleasure.
how the Commission is operating.
My pleasure. Thank you, Elena. Good night.
Be well. Thank you.
You're welcome. So thank you, Elena Sassower. So we have a couple of minutes left. I was wanting to encourage people to, I have been writing my blog. It's on Google Blogs. It is what it is, Blogspot, April Waters. April's the month that I was born. Waters, Watters. I've been writing just so much about, because, watching my brother be in this completely helpless, like a baby, situation that he's in. I mean, it was really devastating to first hear about it, but this is what I'm saying. Like, when we don't stay connected to our health. I mean, maybe what happened to my brother won't happen to people in this drastic way, but slowly over time, when you do not stay in touch with with your and keep your functions physically, mentally, emotionally, you will lose them. The system wants you to not be healthy. The system wants to take your health away from you so that it can use it against you and keep taking and using it to enslave you more and more. I mean, it's just that simple. Don't let it happen. Please read my blog. My Facebook page is just Cat Waters Watters. I updated my profile picture. It's me with Dennis Kucinich, who spoke at the NSA a couple of weeks ago. It was really inspiring. His video is on my YouTube channel, April like the month, Waters Watters. And thank you so much for tuning in. Stay healthy. Get a little bit angry, channel your anger, use that energy and put it to good use. Don't, I mean, I should talk. I mean, I try to practice it all the time. But anyway, tune in next Tuesday and have a great week. Good night.